Welcome back to my channel. So, I am a lot of things. I'm an aspiring film director, I'm an acrylic fantasy painter, and I'm also, a lot of people don't know, an aspiring author. I'm currently writing a book that I plan to have released by hopefully next year, called Elemental. It is a YA fantasy. So seeing as I write a lot, obviously I read a lot. I own a lot of books. A lot of them I haven't read because I have my books are on a wait list because I buy so much so I don't forget that I want them because I got ADHD and a short memory span. Today I wanted to do kind of a book haul and talk about books that I have, that I've read, that I haven't read, why I bought them, why I'm interested in them. Let's get into that. The Future Will Be BS Free by Will McIntosh. So The Future Will Be BS Free is about these 4 friends, and they want to create a lie detector. All of them are in it for money except for Theo. Theo just really wants a pure and clear world. The world they live in is every gifted and talented person in America has been killed. One day Theo gets murdered. They're trying to make it so that no one can lie, no one. And basically the book, it dives into the philosophy, can we live without lies, or are lies what hold this world together? And I think that's a really compelling theory. I think that's a really compelling question. I haven't read all of this book. I've read maybe 3 chapters because it was the only book I had at, I was at a coffee shop and I was waiting for my mom to pick me up. But I think it's the second to next book I'm gonna read. This is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So this book I have read. So this book basically is about a girl named Avery Kyle Grams, I believe is her full name. And she has kind of a sucky life. Her mom is dead. Her dad's out of her life. She lives with her sister, who she loves, but her sister has this crappy boyfriend who's just leeching off of the small amount of things they have, and she's just ready to get out of high school and live her life. So the principal calls her to the office, and this man is there, and he's like, "Hey, my name is Grayson Hawthorne, and I need you to fly to Texas because my grandpa died and your name is in his will." Long story short, she flies to Texas. Come to find out, she was left $46.2 billion out of the will. She was the main beneficiary of his will. Everybody's so mad. Everybody is who is this? A lot of people think she slept with the grandpa. She doesn't even know these people. She's confused her dang self. So I think this is a really good read. I really like this book. I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, I have the YA Book Club edition from Barnes & Noble. So I have the additional epilogue, but this is a really good book. I really highly suggest that you read it. Girl Serpent Thorn by Melissa Bashadorsk. I think I said that wrong, but hopefully I didn't. I haven't read this one, but my aunt bought it for me for Christmas. This girl named Soraya, and she has to live her life hidden away from her family. She's only allowed in the garden, and she has to live in seclusion because her skin is very poisonous. So anyone she touches, I don't know if it's anything, I don't know if she touches a flower, if it'll die, but one time she touched, I think, a maid, and she killed the maid. I listened to the little sneak peek on Amazon, because I was going to buy it for myself, and then my aunt surprised me with it for Christmas. So I listened to the little sneak peek on Amazon, and it sounds really good. I really want to read it. It kind of reminds me of Frozen, or that story of the king who everything he touched turned to gold, and at first it was really good, and then he touched a person or something, and that person was frozen in gold. So yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. She's having a crisis, as anyone would if they had poisonous skin. but she's like, am I, a princess? Am I a demon? Like, she feels like a monster, and I'm really interested in this book. Well, I'm really interested in all these books. That's why I bought them and why I own them and why people bought them for me. But this is a good read. I'd assume this is a good one to pick up. I think the story is really compelling. Yeah. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab is also a Barnes & Noble's exclusive. I didn't read this book. I haven't read this book. I seen this book on Amazon, and I knew I had to have it. But the thing was, it wouldn't arrive for another 2 months, which I guess wasn't a problem because I still haven't read it, but I wanted it now. So, like, I was determined. I went on Amazon, I went on thriftbooks.com, OfferUp, I went on Mercari, I went on eBay, I went on Etsy, the Barnes & Noble's exclusive, and the hardcover, and I'm fine with that. So, yeah. This book is basically about a girl who, in 1714, she made a mistake. She basically made a deal with a guy named Luke, who is like the devil, I think, but I'm not sure. She gets to live forever, but she won't be remembered by anyone she sees. Until one day, 300 years later, 2014, I think, she stumbles into this hidden library and somebody remembers her name. And I remember when I read that line, that was when I knew. I was like, oh, this book is for me. It kind of reminds me of that movie, The Age of Adeline, about that girl. She fell into like a river or whatever when it was like snowing in California, and then her heart stopped beating, and then she lived, and she kept changing her name, and she like lived until 2014, 15, whatever, and then she like fell in love. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about? Love a la Mode by Stephanie Kate Storm. There's this girl named Rosie, and she believes that happiness can be found at the bottom of a mixing bowl. She is a baker. She got accepted to be a celebrity chef in a school in Paris. Basically, it's like just really challenging for her. It's really hard. The professor is horrible, and she begins to like think all her dishes suck. Then she meets this guy who also loves food, and he's also a chef, and they really connect, and they're really hitting it off. But Rosie basically has to pick between him and like her work, her food. This is basically, it's just like, if you love romance, this is like the book for you. It's the book. I love this book. I'm a sucker for romance. Just, I don't know, I love love. I really like this book. I have an Instagram, specifically for just nerdy stuff and book reviews. It's just like more of a personal blog than my art Instagram. It is called Books and Brownies, and I post all of like, I don't post really like in-depth reviews there. I should though. I should probably start doing that. But I post pictures and I post weird stuff of me, and go follow that account. Pick up this book. It's a good read. I got this book for free at school. My school has like a thing where like they just put books out there, I guess, like near the library. And it's like, hey, you want a book? Okay, take one. And I take a lot. So, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is the other book my aunt got me for Christmas. She got me 2 of them, and this is the other one. So I haven't read that one either. This girl named Nora, she's had a sucky life, and she feels like she let everyone down, including herself. She finds herself in the Midnight Library. She has a chance to make things right. So the books, they enable Nora to live as if she had done things differently, and each one contains a different life, and they affect everything and everyone she knows, and a ton of people that she's never met, and she must answer the ultimate question: what is the best way to live? So, I feel like I love this book. I haven't read this book, but I love this book for the same reasons I feel like I love The Future Will Be BS Free. It's just a really fun way to answer a really compelling question. And you know, I think about stuff like this all the time. Like, I constantly think about the multiverse, and just all the time. Like, all the time, I'm like, if I had made a wrong step somewhere in an alternate universe, Janiyah she tripped down those stairs and she actually broke her neck. I just tripped and like caught my balance. You know, somewhere out there I'm a boy. Somewhere out there I'm like, I don't know, I'm like a model. Somewhere out there I'm the world's most hated person. Just like everything you can ever think of or ever conceive is happening somewhere in the multiverse. And that's just crazy to me. Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. So this book I just finished reading. I'm currently actually on the second book in this series. I love this book. This is a really good book. I kind of thought like it was overrated. I thought people were like saying like, oh, it's a good read, and it's just I was wrong. It's worth the hype. It's a good book. There used to be a bunch of people called the Magi, and they had all type of magic. Some of them were reapers, and they could deal with the dead, and connectors, and they could deal with the mind. Some of them were tiders, and they could deal with water. Burners were fire. You know, it's just like, you know, they just had like magic with elements and such, and all the other people who didn't have that kind of were jealous and haters. And so one night they took this thing called Magicite, which is like the Magi's kryptonite, and like, you know, killed a lot of them, and you know, took a lot of their magic away. Basically, these three people, Amari, Tsane, and Zeely, are fighting to bring the magic back, and they're just fighting for everyone to be equal. Well, some people aren't fighting for equality, some people are fighting for vengeance. Some people are fighting for equality, and obviously the other people are just fighting to get them back in place, and they're beating and killing a lot of things. This book, if you didn't get from just me talking about it, it has a lot to do with racism, colorism. It has a lot to do with privilege. It has a lot to do with society. And again, that's why I really, really like this book. It talks about an important topic in a digestible way. There are tons of moments in this book where I just want to stop reading because I'm a very emotional person, and this is a very emotional book. A lot of people die, spoiler alert. But I think it's a really important read. I think it's something that a lot of people need to read. It's one of those books where, you know how if you're watching like a movie in like the MCU or like in Star Wars or something, you're like witnessing like a really happy moment. Everyone's really happy, but you know it's not gonna last for long. You're like, oh, they're so happy right now. Something horrible is about to happen. This book has a lot of those, and they just really get you emotional. I remember every time something good would happen, every time we were celebrating something, I was like, this isn't gonna last. This isn't gonna last. Something's about to happen. And every time it did. But I highly suggest this book. I'm in the middle of the second one, and I can't read it fast enough. Among the Beasts and Briars by Ashley Punston. Among the Beasts and Briars is about a girl named Ceres who lives in the kingdom of Elroya, and this is a kingdom with like no famine, disease, no droughts, no wars. Their kingdom is perfect. Since their kingdom is so clear, all the badness that would happen in that kingdom, it's pulled into the woods, and it gets really, really like dark and evil. And basically, Ceres gets in there, but she like barely escapes with her life when she was young. The woods killed her friends and her mom, but she like barely escaped. She carries a little bit of the woods in her blood. Basically, when she's crowned queen, the stuff from the woods leaks into the kingdom. And she, long story short, has to find a way to get her kingdom back to the happiness it once was. I haven't read this one yet either. I know I say like I haven't read a lot of them, but I own a lot of books. I own more than what I'm showing today, and I've read like I think like a third of them. Like I have a lot. I'm not a speed reader, but this one is a really good read. I have read a bit of this. I read about that much, but I think when it's time to read, I'm just gonna start over because it was a while ago. But I really think you should read this one. It's really good from what I have read, and it has a really compelling story. And it's not that big of a read. You can finish this in like a weekend. Not a weekend, but like a week. Secrets of the Tally and Catching Epics by Haley Fitz. So I love this series. And I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to tell you why. This series, I don't even have to open the book to read the synopsis again. This series it follows a girl named Allie, and basically Allie woke up in the woods one day and she lost her memory. Eventually, some people help her find her way back home. Allie is going on an adventure to get her memory back and to save her village from these things called the Escalies. Escalies are like these human creature thingies, and they're just murdering people left and right. She has this thing of like tally marks by her bedside, and she's like, what is that about? The second book is she still doesn't have her memory, but she knows a lot more about herself. It focuses a lot on two new characters, which are Ebby and Vac, and a demon character whose name is Ratchuan, who I don't want to talk about that much here because he's 11 years old and I hate him, and there were literally times in the book where I hoped he'd die, and I know you shouldn't say that about an 11-year-old, but I don't care. I was at a Harry Potter convention in Washington called the Weekend of Wizardry. It was a fundraiser for a bigger con, so I was there, and we were going through the vendors, and this girl named Haley was selling her book there, and we were looking at them, and we were like, oh, your book looks really interesting. And so my aunt was like, yeah, sure, I'll buy 2 copies. She got them signed for me. They're her books, but she got them signed for me, so each book is signed for me, like I just said. But basically, we were talking, me and Haley, and she was like, so what are your favorite books? And I was like, oh, just like Harry Potter and like Percy Jackson and just the fantasy sci-fi genre. And she was like, you're gonna love this book. And I do love this book, Haley. So yeah, Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. Monday's Not Coming tells the story of Monday Charles, who has been missing for quite some time now, and the only person who seems to notice or care is her best friend named Claudia. And Claudia's been going around asking, like, hey, where's Monday? Like, have you seen her? And like, no one really seems to even remember the last time they seen Monday or really care that much. And so Claudia takes it into her own hands to find out the truth and find out what happened to Monday and like where her best friend is. This is a really good read. I've read this one. It's really compelling. It has a good mystery element. The Red Ribbon by Lucy Adlington. This book, I haven't read yet. I think this is the next book I want to read. It is basically about, well, I don't want to say basically about, because this is an important topic. It's about these 2 girls who work in the sewing workshop in Auschwitz. This girl named Ella, she meets Rose, who is a shining light in her life. Basically, it's about these 2 girls who find each other while in Auschwitz during the Holocaust, and they form a really, really strong bond. This is that historical fiction I'm talking about. I really think this is a good one to pick up and read. I've read a bit of this. It's not that long. I've read a bit of this. It's really good, and it has a really important message about a really important and sensitive topic. So yeah, I think this is a good one to read. Sadie by Courtney Summer. Sadie is the story of a girl who died, and her sister is going to try to find the killer with not so nice intentions. Wes McCrae is like basically the guy who's trying to find Sadie before she kills the person who killed her sister, and he's just trying to find her, trying to make sure she doesn't do it. I've read this one. This is a really good one. This is suspenseful and it's thrilling and it's really, really good. And I highly suggest that you read it. It's also up on my Instagram. There's a few that are on my Instagram that I didn't mention it because I forgot. But read this. Read this. Read it. All right. We have talked about 17 books today. And I have been sitting here for 46 minutes. I think that about does it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you want, like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm not going to force you. Comment down below what are your favorite books. If you read. If you don't read, that's fine. Yeah, I know, again, I talked too much. And I know this topic might have been boring for some people because, like, who reads anymore? But, if you sat down and watched it, thank you. Bye.